Howdy, and welcome to a random parking lot here in Austin, Texas with my Cybertruck. So it's been 6 months and 8,000 miles. It's been a crazy ride, no pun intended. It's got a lot of ups, it's got a lot of downs, and I think it's finally time that we sit and we talk about them, and I give my genuine experience. The Cybertruck is something that I wanted ever since I saw it come off the stage. It's genuinely something that I love, and I have been excited for a really long time. So let's start with the good. This is kind of a controversial topic, but the looks of the Cybertruck are really polarizing. I'm personally a huge fan of it. I have always kind of been a fan of the cyberpunk-esque look, and this kind of fits the bill, man. I mean, it really does look out of this world. It looks like something from Cyberpunk. Shame I can't play Cyberpunk on my Cybertruck. I'm also a firm believer where if you're walking away from your vehicle to go to the grocery store and you turn back and just stare at your car or truck for a little bit, you know you have the right vehicle. And I do that every time. I genuinely love the look of the Cybertruck. I've been thinking a lot about what the best part of the Cybertruck is, and I think I've finally come to the conclusion. I think it's just driving it. It's, out of all of the Teslas, genuinely the best driving Tesla I have driven. I've driven the 3, S, X, Y, Cybertruck, but there's something about this one with the way that the suspension feels, to the way that it takes corners, to how small it feels compared to how big it is, that genuinely makes it wonderful to drive. And I think a very large part of that is steer-by-wire. I think steer-by-wire is a undervalued feature of the vehicle. It's the first vehicle to have steer-by-wire implemented without a backup system. I did at one point have a steering error, but it was fixed after just walking away from the vehicle and coming back up to it. Now, is that a good thing? Absolutely not. It ended up being nothing, and Tesla looked into it and they found nothing, so it shouldn't have happened in the first place, but I haven't actually had any real issues with steer-by-wire. Rear wheel steering, which is not just on the Cybertruck. The Hummer EV has it, and that is a really big car and still feels relatively small with that rear wheel steering, but I genuinely think it makes a huge difference. It makes the vehicle feel smaller than it actually is. Maneuvering it in parking lots or doing U-turns at intersections is genuinely easy, and I think that's a huge benefit for this truck. I'm a big music guy. I really pay a lot of attention to how audio sounds. I'm confident when I say this is the best sounding car audio system I have ever heard in a vehicle. The bass is incredibly punchy. The mids and the highs feel very crisp and don't feel very distorted at high volumes. It genuinely sounds fantastic. Those two subwoofers that are in the second row make a huge difference. I did, however, notice the bass sounds less punchy when you're in the back seats. When I'm in the front seats, it feels way more crisp and way more direct. But when I'm in the back, it felt a little bit more muddy. That's something that's interesting that I noticed. I recently drove a Model S and X, which were touted as some of the best sounding Tesla speakers so far, until the Cybertruck. I feel every time I'm listening to any other car stereo, I feel spoiled. I want to come back to this sound system. Now, this goes without saying with Tesla, but performance in this truck is fantastic. The acceleration feels really quick. It feels pretty similar to a long-range Model Y, 0 to 60 wise. But I recently had the opportunity to actually take this thing on the Circuit of the Americas, and I did a few laps with it. Now, to be clear, this was just a parade lap, so I didn't actually get to go at the fastest speed I could. But I was told to go as fast as my pace car, and they went 85, so I went 85. It felt very good. Steer-by-wire felt really responsive to me. A lot of body roll, but that's to be expected for a truck that's over 6,800 pounds. But overall, it felt like it handled pretty darn well. I also really like the shape of the steering wheel, or also known as the Squircle. I'm a big fan of it. It doesn't feel too big like the Model S and X yoke does. I'm not the biggest fan of the yoke. I'm a big fan of the shape of this. It felt really nice on the track, didn't feel too big, and it has physical buttons, Tesla. Why are we not continuing the physical button train? It's the best. If we're gonna remove the stocks, just make the buttons physical. Haptic is not the best. I think this thing could honestly use a dedicated track mode. At least maybe the Beast, which I don't have. I would still like a track mode for my dual motor, but I definitely think it could use a track mode. I think Tesla utilizes the space of the truck pretty well. I really like having the storage down here. This is awesome. And the size of the bed is actually fantastic. That being said, I've noticed when I'm trying to use the bed that if there's something in here, it's really hard to reach down and actually grab something. So that's kind of a negative effect of the sloped angle of the bed. I'm often driving around with the seats up in the back and stuff in the front. So yeah, space is utilized pretty well in this thing. Now it's not an R1T. I think the R1T is the king of utilizing space. I wish I had a gear tunnel. That's the thing that I really, really wish I had. Now, before we move on to the more negative portion of the review, I want to give a quick shout out to the Tesla Cybertruck team. I see y'all on Twitter a lot, specifically Wes. I see you a lot on there, and I really do appreciate how much y'all listen to us, how much y'all take feedback, and how clear y'all are on communication. For instance, whenever I did the off-road video, one of my big complaints was that every time you got out of the vehicle reverted back to the on-road mode. Now, in the most recent update, as far as I'm aware, that's been resolved, and that's fantastic. And I'm really excited to see how this vehicle continues to progress. Speaking of software, let's talk about software. There are times when I genuinely feel that this truck was launched unfinished. My biggest complaint is the lack of full self-driving and autopilot. This vehicle was advertised to me for a $20,000 premium with full self-driving. I still don't have it 6 months later. Now, Elon recently said on Twitter that, that's going to be coming in a future release, in a few months. Now, that being said, I don't know how much I believe that. I've heard a lot of timelines from this company, and sometimes it really doesn't deliver. Now, on the contrary, I understand why Cybertruck doesn't have full self-driving yet. There's not a lot of Cybertrucks on the road. It's brand new and has to be completely reintegrated into the full self-driving software, and that's understandable, especially with the lack of Cybertrucks that there are on the road. But the fact is, I paid $20,000. I don't have full self-driving on my car, and worse than that, I don't even have lane assist. What's frustrating about that is that the base Model 3 comes with autopilot out of the gate, and now has full self-driving. That vehicle is less than half the price of my Cybertruck. The fact of the matter is, a vehicle that costs half the price from the same company feels more feature complete than this car, and that is frustrating. I had to wait a while just to get auto windshield wipers, which still doesn't work very well, or cabin overheat protection, or Steam for that matter. Speaking of software, I'm going through a weird situation right now. The most recent software update includes a complete revamp to the off-road app, is what they're calling it now. I don't have the most recent update, and I was really curious as to why I'm one of the only people that don't have it. And I found out that I need my rear steering actuator replaced. There is a revised part out there which allows for, I believe, a tighter turning radius in the most recent update. And my Cybertruck is one of the earliest delivered, so it doesn't have that. In theory, that's fine. I get that. And I honestly appreciate them putting an improved part in for me. The problem is that I asked service a few months ago if this is a part that I needed, and they told me no. And it ended up being something that I needed. Now, it could be very possible that my vehicle didn't seem like it was affected, or they didn't have the correct info, or were given misinformation. Whatever that may be, I had to create another service visit for this. My service visit was supposed to be tomorrow, the 15th of May, but it was rescheduled for a month from now because the part is not there and ETA is currently a month. So my truck will not be updated for a month until that part comes in. That seems to be a pretty consistent issue with Cybertruck, is parts availability. I understand it's a new vehicle, but I live in Austin. Parts should not be constrained in Austin. I can't even imagine what the experience is like outside of Texas.
Hi, Editor Ben here. So update to that whole situation. I just got my vehicle back from service yesterday, which was about a week after I filmed this video. They were able to get the part and bring me in for service earlier after I pushed a little bit. Thank you, Tesla, for pulling me in and getting that taken care of. The criticism is still there. Part constraint has been a very consistent thing. There are still parts that I need for my truck that I've been waiting months for that I still don't have, but specifically the rear steering actuator has been installed and the software is updated.
Range on this vehicle has been a consistent topic. It was originally announced for about 500 miles. Now, obviously, that didn't happen. We get about 324 estimated miles with the dual motor with the big wheels. I don't really get that. probably get about 270 to 260 on average. The benefit in my situation is that I can just charge at home. And I actually have Tesla Electric. So I pay $25 a month to get unlimited overnight charging. So essentially my charging costs every month is $25. That on its own is fantastic. I don't even want to imagine living with Cybertruck without a dedicated charging spot. Speaking of charging speeds on this truck is slow. It's not as great as people were hoping it would be. I consistently have to spend an extra 20 minutes at a supercharger, which is frustrating because there is another EV truck that has better charging capabilities than this truck. I thought Tesla's bread and butter was supposed to be their charging network and their charging infrastructure. But nobody really knows when V4 supercharging is coming out. And for those who don't know, V4 supercharging will essentially enable the full capabilities of this truck with its 800-volt architecture. But Tesla just fired their entire supercharging team. And even when they were fully staffed, we had no idea when the rollout of V4 charging would be coming to the USA. So right now we're stuck with V3, and it feels pretty lackluster, and the charging curve is not great. Now, that can be improved with software updates, just like the Model Y with the 4680 cells was improved by software. But in its current state, this is not a fun road trip vehicle. I would rather just take a Model 3. To be clear, I think road tripping in an EV is absolutely possible and 100% doable, but the added amount of time per supercharging stop on the Cybertruck makes it a little more frustrating to road trip. The Cybertruck also has the ability to do something called power share, where in the event of a power outage, your vehicle can actually power your home. That's a really awesome feature. Now, that's not something unique to the Cybertruck. The F-150 Lightning has had this ability since its release. The benefit of getting the Foundation series is that it came with a gateway and a universal connector allowing this to happen at your house. The only caveat is that it has to be installed by a Tesla certified installer. I did go through with the process of getting my house checked out by Tesla, and they deemed that it would be $3,500 to install, including hardware. Now, I already have a wall connector at my house. It already has the correct cabling for a full 48 amp system. Now, as far as I'm aware, the only thing that I would need run from the gateway that would be installed to the universal connector is a data cable, which is not a big cable. So $3,500 did not seem like a very good value for me. Specifically because whenever I had my site visit, I was also told that the feature wasn't even available yet. So I had paid $3,500 for the hardware to be installed at my house, but not have the software to actually power share. I believe that has been added into the most recent software update, but at the time, it didn't make sense to pay that much money for a feature that would come in a later software update when I'm already frustrated that this car is lacking in software. To make matters worse, I actually just asked for the hardware outright. I just wanted the hardware, I paid for it, it came with my $20,000 upgrade. They wouldn't give it to me. They said I would have to have it installed by a certified electrician or by a certified Tesla electrician in order to get the free hardware. That's frustrating. It was advertised to come with the hardware. Why don't I get the hardware? Now, they did offer me $700 in store credit, but I don't really care too much about store credit. I just want the hardware that I paid for. Even worse than that, I asked if I wanted to install at a later time, could I, and get the hardware included? And I was told no, I would have to pay out of pocket. So essentially, that's another feature that I don't get for the $20,000 Foundation series. So to end off the video, I want to make it clear. The Cybertruck is not for everyone. Some people don't like the looks, some people don't like that it's an EV, and I think that that's totally okay. I'm a car guy. I like electric vehicles and I like gas vehicles. I have a Mazda Miata, which is a fantastic car, and I genuinely believe that there is nothing else on this planet like a small car with a manual transmission and a nice exhaust. I don't get the same experience out of any EV. That being said, for my lifestyle, an EV works. And I think an EV truck is even more convenient. I love being able to have the space. Do I use this like a truck all the time? No. Do most people use their truck all the time like it's meant to be? Absolutely not. It's really nice for the convenience factor, and it would be hard to lose that convenience. I've owned this vehicle a long time. I've owned this vehicle 6 months, which is a lot, and that's enough time to get used to it. I don't think that its charm has died off for me, But there are times that I am frustrated with it. And frustrated with the experience of it. The good news is mostly all of that is just software related. And as I said in the most recent video, software can be updated. But it doesn't excuse that this vehicle was delivered in the state that it's currently in. For people that are considering a Cybertruck and have a Foundation Series potentially available, it's not worth the extra $20,000 for essentially what is a cosmetic package. I don't know when full self-driving is going to be available, or autopilot, which is technically included with that package. Yeah, it came with floor mats and it came with a divider and, you know, sure, it came with a bottle opener, but it's not worth $20,000. I think the best Cybertrucks are going to be the ones that come after the Foundation Series has ended. $20,000 less for hopefully what is a feature complete vehicle. So if you're considering, I would probably wait for that if you really do want a Cybertruck. Okay, that was the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would really appreciate if you subscribed. I do plan on going back out and off-roading in that same spot where I got stuck in my most infamous video to see if it has actually improved once I get the software for it. But overall, I want to expand from just Cybertruck on this channel. I love EVs, and I want to keep talking about them. Now, that being said, Cybertruck content isn't going anywhere. I just want to expand the channel a little bit. So if you're interested, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. I'm really excited for what's to come with this channel, and I'm really excited for what's to come with the EV world. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.